And joining us right now on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line, my good friend from 6ABC, The Action News, as some people like to refer to it, Jeff Skversky. What's up there, Jeff?
What's happening, Mark? How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's great to have you on. Do you hear that? Every once in a while, still people like they say the Acme. Do you still hear like The Action News every once in a while?
I don't hear the Acme, but I hear Action News, 6ABC. It depends what generation. I hear Channel 6. It just depends what generation is coming up to me. And there's a lot less people coming up to me lately because of the pandemic. So, but we're starting to get out and about a little bit more. But, you're just not around people as much. It's weird.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Here's the other thing. People can do this, too, because I want people to check you out on your social media as well, on your Twitter account, because right now I know you guys are running a story about the old Penn State quarterback, Christian Hackenberg. What's that guy been up to?
So he's coaching football at Winslow Township High School. It's a great story. He wants to help out the next generation of kids, and he kind of feels refreshed. I mean, he had a rough go, obviously, between the Jets and the Raiders and the Eagles and the Bengals. And, he was cut. So it was kind of a rough 5 years. And then this year, he's in his first year coaching, as you guessed it, the quarterbacks at Winslow Township High School during the playoffs this weekend. And Bill Belton, who also played, it was his teammate at Penn State. He's also on that coaching staff. So he reached out to Christian, who was living in the area. His wife is a South Jersey native, and they reached out to him. And so he's volunteering. He's not even accepting a dime. So he's volunteering, and he's been helping out the quarterbacks out there.
That's absolutely incredible. What was it like catching up with him? How's he doing?
He's doing well. He feels refreshed. And, you think of a guy like that, and you're going, man, he must be bitter or angry that things didn't work out, and he's not like that at all. And he just is like, look, I wish it obviously worked out better, and but it worked out the way it worked out. I'm not bitter. I'm moving on, and I have no anger toward the game of football. He loves it. He feels refreshed, and so it's a nice, cool little story, because you think about guys that didn't work out that were drafted high up, whether it's with the Eagles or the Jets or really any team you follow. And you just wonder, hey, what went on there? And, you expect guys to be upset or mad, but he has a really good head on his shoulders. And it's good to see him helping out because, he has a lot of football knowledge to pass along. I mean, he played at a high level at Penn State. He was with the Jets, had a cup of coffee in the NFL. And, look, it just didn't work out. And, for most guys, really, it doesn't work out. What's the average age of NFL players? 3 years? What is it?
Yeah, the average career about 3 years, 2.5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, and so a lot of times guys, their careers are over before they can even rent a car. So, it's he's falling back and he's doing some football coaching, and it's great to see.
Yeah, not for long, as the old saying goes. Not for long, NFL. Jeff, to talk about our football team right now in the city of Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Eagles, new head coach, new quarterback this whole season. How do you think the first 8 games of this year has gone so far? How do you think this new Sirianni Hurts era has gone?
I think it's gone fine, and I think there's been this overreaction of what the expectations really should be. Look, coming off the Doug Peterson final year, they win 4 games. The expectations going into this season, a rookie head coach, really a rookie quarterback in Jalen Hurts. He still hasn't started 16 games. So he's really a rookie quarterback. So I go, what were your expectations for this football team? All of a sudden you get into it and everyone's getting mad. They lose to the Bucks and Brady and they lose to the Chiefs. And I go, what were your expectations for this football team? I mean, did you really expect this team to be a Super Bowl team? Of course not. Now, within that, there are some things that have been frustrating early on. Why are they not running the ball? Why is Miles Sanders not touching the football? And then, of course, this past week against the Lions, Sanders is hurt. He doesn't play, and they run the ball more than they've run the ball in 41 years. The most combined rushing yards, most combined rushing touchdowns in 41 years for the Eagles. Figure that one out. I don't know, but there have been some frustrations in the way Fletcher Cox is being used and things like that with Jonathan Gannon and the defensive coordinator. So there are some things that they have to get ironed out, but I just ask people that are upset or really, really angry about it. I go, what were your expectations? That's just my opinion and my view of it.
Gotcha. So here's one thing that I think you can cut and paste from last week's game against the Lions to this week's game against the Chargers in South Philly 405. The run game. The Lions are one of the worst teams in the NFL at run defense. The Chargers
they're one of the worst teams at everything.
Specifically, yeah, you're right. And the Chargers, though, are the worst team at run defense in the league. So it only makes sense to cut a little bit of that and paste it into this game, right?
Sure, and why not? And then, I spoke with Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson and some other players about it this week. Their mentality is, okay, now you kind of have to play the chess game because the Chargers are going to expect that, right? So then how do you counterbalance? And, to Nick Sirianni's point, the last few weeks, a lot of times they've had these runs that are called and then they become the RPOs, the run pass option, and Jalen Hurts doesn't run the ball. So, look, obviously they're working through it. They have had some things that they have to work out. Things haven't always gone, haven't been perfect. But again, they have a rookie team, a really young team, young receivers, young quarterback, young coaching staff. You have to give it time. And to judge it this early and to have some definitive answer on this is going to work or not going to work, I just think that is just really unfair.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you a question now because this will take us out of our own comfort zones here. And I've had to ask myself this question a couple of times throughout this week. Let's say we're in Indianapolis. You're reporting on the Colts. I'm talking about the Colts right on this show. Would you want them to play Carson Wentz going forward? Or would you say, no, dude, pack it in. I don't want to lose the first round pick. What would you do if you're the Indianapolis Colts and let's say that things really start to fall apart?
Well, who are you within the Indianapolis Colts? Are you Frank Reich? Or are you the general manager?
Ooh, okay.
Because Frank Reich, he may have less time. So he's going to want Carson Wentz. He's his guy. He has vouched for Carson Wentz. Wentz had his best career year when Frank Reich was the offensive coordinator. So I think they want Carson Wentz to play, and Carson wants to play. What happens down the road, I don't know. But, I don't think the Colts are as bad as their record indicates at this point. I think they're a better football team, but that is a great question. And I really think it depends on who you are within that organization, right?
Mm-hmm. And of course, at the time we tape this, the Colts and Jets are just about to play on Thursday Night Football. So I'll insert my reaction to that here. Yes.
Yeah.
Damn.
The Colts should win that. The Colts should win that game.
I would expect them to as well. Jeff, by the way, you seem a little bit more chipper than normal. Not that you're ever a crumb bum or anything like that, but I know that Seinfeld is back on, or Seinfeld's on Netflix. Curb is back. I know you're a big fan of those two shows, so congrats on that, man.
Oh, yeah, it gives me something else to watch other than sports. I mean, because think about when you come home from work, you got to watch the Flyers, you got to watch the Sixers, and then before there's Phillies, and there's Eagles, and then World Series, and there's Thursday Night Football. There's this, and you're like, so to have something else to watch other than sports, I love sports, but
right. No, I understand. Yeah,
to have something else to watch is just tremendous. It's just tremendous.
I'm binging Seinfeld again because I was explaining to my audience the other day, like I was so young when it came. I was like 7 when it came out, like the first episode. But all through the 90s, I'm growing up and watching the show, and I just have a distorted memory of what it was. One of the things that surprises me this go around is I thought that they never really talked a lot about Jerry and Elaine dating. But in the first 2 seasons, that's a constant theme. Like the second season ends, and they have the friendship bet, or not the bet, the arrangement, if you will. And that season ends, and they're together. They're a couple. I thought they only hinted at that throughout the episodes.
You're just picking up on that they used to be an item?
Oh, no. I knew that,
okay.
But I always thought it was kind of mentioned in passing. In the early goings, it's like a thing where they can talk, like they cover that they can talk about other people with one another. It really highlighted how they did stay friends after the breakup.
It's great to talk about other people. It's great to talk about it. What's amazing about the show? The writing is so tight.
Yeah.
And it still holds up, which is amazing. And it's just amazing. And so years ago, I won a Seinfeld trivia contest with a couple other friends, and we donated the money that we won. We donated the money to the Gary Papa race, which raised money for prostate cancer. Because Gary, I used to do these, when Gary was still with us, I would sometimes do these Seinfeld trivia contests. And Gary would be in the group. And I remember one time Gary brought a friend of his with along, and he's like, "Oh, this guy's money. He knows everything about Seinfeld." And then right before the contest that we were doing, he was going over, we're kind of brainstorming, just going over some tough questions. And the guy goes, Gary's friend, he goes, "Hey, what was the neighbor's name again?" And we looked at him like, "What? What?" And we go, he has to be saying Newman. And I'm like, "Newman?" And he goes, "No, the guy with the tall hair." I'm like, "Kramer?" And I just went, "Oh my goodness." I'm like, "Gary, this is the guy you brought to win the Seinfeld." But we won that contest, and we donated the money to the prostate run that they used to have on the Parkway. So, but yeah, I mean, if I knew sports as well as I knew Seinfeld, I'd be doing much better.
That's fantastic. I have to ask you about this. This Ben Simmons story, I find absolutely mind blowing. From every detail about this story, even though we really don't know that many details because we haven't heard from Ben, we've only heard things leak out, or Daryl Morey's addressed the media, or Doc Rivers has addressed the media, but he's kept a tight lip. And then Joel Embiid says, "I don't care about that guy," and then he's telling everybody he's still our brother in front of the packed Wells Fargo Center. What are you making of this Ben Simmons fiasco, and how does it end?
It's so hard to answer, right? Because none of us are that educated on mental health. And so I think initially him wanting out, you're going, come on, man. I mean, you're 25 years old. You've made $200 million already. If you play your cards half right, you're going to make another 200, 250. You're going to make $500 million in your career. Just play basketball. And what is the problem? You're going to get criticized. Philadelphia's a tough town. You know that you're going to get criticized. I think he was being maybe a little too sensitive. On the other end, okay, so he's, and it appears he is. I mean, because you're going, how could a guy like this not play here? He's having some, a mental health, situation here that he has to get ironed out. None of us know what's going on in his head other than him. Whether he's expressed it, whether he hasn't expressed it, nobody knows what someone else is going through. So at the same time, I think initially all of us went, what is he doing? Are you kidding me? Just play basketball. A lot of us had a hard time understanding that what could possibly the Sixers have done wrong here. You're just going, okay, this is all on Ben. But when you start to think about it, okay, well, maybe he's having some mental health problems. We don't know enough about mental health to say and make that judgment. And maybe this is how he's reacting. His body is shutting down, and how he's handling it. Whether it's wrong, whether it's right, it's just, it is what it is. I think if you're the Sixers, you're going, what can we do to help Ben? I mean, I've talked to a lot of people in the Sixers organization. They want to help Ben as a person. And of course, they want to get Ben back on the basketball court because they are a better team with him. So I don't know how it ends. I really don't. Can Ben get past whatever issues he has with Doc Rivers, Joel Embiid, the way they're using him in the offense, what the expectations are, the pressure from the fans, the pressure from the team, things like that. What I would like to know is when he wanted to be traded, if the Sixers pulled off a trade back in September for Portland, let's say for Lillard,
right?
Would Ben be playing right now for the Trailblazers? Look, we can't answer that question, but I do wonder that question. So the Sixers are trying to get him help, and they want to be clued in on it because, look, they're paying the guy right now. And so with the CBA language, they have to pay him, because he's seeking, mental health.
Right.
So I really don't know how it plays out. And I don't think anyone knows how it plays out. I don't think the Sixers and his teammates know how this plays out.
Before I let you go, are you feeling two things, but I have to ask your prediction. Are you feeling a win against the Chargers for the Eagles?
They're so unpredictable, right? I mean, I don't know. I think they're going to have a tough time with their quarterback. I think that defense is going to have a real tough time with Herbert. He had one of the best rookie seasons of all time last year, and he's off to a good start so far this year. What football team shows up? I don't know. You got to get Devontae Smith offensively going a little bit more. We'll see. I really don't know. I guess my instinct is no, but I don't know. This is not a team that I have a good feel for. I mean, do you have a good feel for this team?
No. No, I don't. I don't at all.
And I don't think
Good.
I don't think the Eagles do. I mean, how many times have the Eagles talked about we don't really know what our identity is
Right.
now,
Yeah.
which is a really hard thing to comprehend. Hey, how does a football team not know their identity? But they're still feeling it out, and I just don't know.
I got two things for you, both more of a personal thing. Joe Buck is one of the latest guests on the podcast Smartless, if you ever listen to that. It's a great podcast with Will Arnett, Sean Hayes, and Jason Bateman.
My wife loves it.
Okay.
She's always telling me about it, and I'm like, I only have, like, how much time do you have in the car? By the time you get from like home to work or back, you have to make a phone call. You listen to music for a second. The next thing you know, like you're home or at work. I mean, but no, there's like too much. There's almost too much to listen to. Plus, of course, I have to listen to your show, and so I'm out of time.
Right.
Like my.
I always appreciate you texting me after every show, just basically giving me your notes and just telling me what you would have done different. Things you love, things you didn't. I always enjoy that.
I grade your show. What did we learn about the Marc Farzetta show? So I'm sorry. So I cut you off. You're the Joe Buck.
Yeah, Buck. No, I'm highly recommending it to you because is it true? Joe Buck, did he critique a tape of yours? How did that work?
Yeah. So so I'm working in Atlantic City. This is my first job in TV. And I guess he used to vacation down there. And this is going back like 20 years ago. So he used to vacation down there. And he was working out at a gym, and like my producer's like brother was a trainer, and went up to him, and next thing I know, I get a call from like Joe Buck, and I'm like, what, who, what, and you're like, what, who's this? And this is like right as he ready to basically pop. He's doing the World Series on Fox, and he's just about to, really, really step into who he is today.
Become Joe Buck, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and so so he gave me some really nice advice, and a few years later I ended up working in St. Louis, and he was just kind of trailing off on doing Cardinals games. He was only doing at that point like 7 or 8 Cardinals games on TV at that point, because he was doing all national stuff. So I would see him around and here and there. I'm not really in touch with him. I mean, I haven't been in touch with him in years, so I don't know if he would remember any of this. But yeah, so he was always very, very nice to me. And I know Joe gets a bad rap in Philly, and I'm always like, why? Like, how hard it is to call a game and not stumble or make a mistake night after night, whether it's football, whatever it is, for 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
You know how hard that is to be, perfect. And everyone just thinks he hates their team. I'm like, what do you want him, like, put yourself in that position. What do you want him to sound like? Mm-hmm. So I'm a big Joe Buck fan.
As am I.
Yeah, a big Joe Buck fan. And by the way, like all these announcers, it's hard. It's a hard job. I mean, to talk perfectly for 3 hours, like who can do that?
Yeah. I barely get through the first 10 minutes of this show without
10 seconds. I can't
10
seconds stumbling and muttering and.
On that note, I want to close with this. To all the young kids that might be watching this, just like Joe Buck and you and all that stuff, you're at Temple Update. You and I are both Temple alums. Go Owls, obviously. We the T. What advice would you give somebody that wants to get into broadcasting? What should they do as soon as humanly possible? What advice would you give them?
Become a doctor. Become a doctor. I don't know. The business has changed so much. I mean, it's just, if this is not what you want to do more than anything else, and to, go through the ups and the downs and moving to the middle of nowhere, I moved to the middle of nowhere, sent tapes to, I was offered a job ready to go to Fargo, North Dakota, right out of school. If you're not willing to do that for no money, for a minimum wage, and really just put those days in, I mean, it's, because, I grew up here. So people, when I came back and I got a job at Channel 6, 2009, people are just like, oh, he's on Channel 6. Oh, that must have been easy. But, there was like a 10-year period where I'm just going, oh my goodness, this is brutal. And then you get the job and you have to also, okay, I have to prove that like I'm worthy of it. Right. And so, there's 10,000 people that are just, want to see me trip up so they can take it. So, obviously just having that patience and that determination. I think you have to have a drive and determination like none other and go, this is the only thing I want to do. I have to do it. And, there's a lot of luck involved, right time, right place. And, I mean, it's hard. It's hard. It's not hard talking about sports, but it's hard to maintain and build a career out of it. And think about it. I mean, how many sportscasters are there, for example, in Philadelphia? There's way more Eagles players than sportscasters. I mean, when you think about how rare being a football player is, I mean, when you think about how rare that is, it's a hard job. So you got to think about and do the math and go, what am I willing to do to go through and just kind of just trek through the mud for years and years and years, and maybe forever. You don't know. No one has a crystal ball on how it's going to work out. So I would say patience and determination.
I just had a kid email me or hit me up, I think on Instagram, slid into my DMs and said, do you not make, I'm thinking about going into broadcasting. He's a college kid. Do you really not make a lot of money? And I was like, yeah, you make no money. Like, did somebody tell you it wasn't a lot of money? It's no money. Like, whoever lied to you and told you it was a little money, it's barely even that.
You gotta love it. It has to be. And look, that should be really anything you do, right? You do it out of love. Hey, I would do it for free. Now, obviously, you want to make money and you want to make a lot of money, but the essence, the core of it has to be heart and drive and love. And that's really with anything. If you love it, it doesn't become work. It's something that you can kind of go through, those painful, really early years. So that would really be my thing. Like, you got to love it, right? I mean, more than, really anything else.
Certainly. I'll write him back and tell him Jeff Skversky said be a doctor. I think that'll go over better. Jeff, great catching up with you, brother. Thanks so much for doing the show. Now, you gave me an assignment. I'm going to do it, and we'll take it off the air. But I will. I'm going to watch the Curb, and I'm going to get back to you with what I would change. That was the assignment about the first episode.
From the first episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, the new season. So happy it's back. What would you change?
All right.
I'll even push you into a little more. How would you have ended the episode?
Ooh.
How would you have ended the episode?
Okay.
Okay. Every person I have asked this has all come back with the same answer.
Okay.
And I think I know what your answer is going to be.
All right. Assignment. I will fulfill the assignment in the not too distant future, my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, check him out again. Make sure you give him a follow on Twitter, of course. Follow all his stuff from 6ABC, 6abc.com, his Twitter account, everything. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Mr. Jeff Skversky. Thank you so much, Jeff. Appreciate you, brother.
Mark, great seeing you. Talk to you soon.
Great seeing you too, man.